Now, welcome to the preparation for KCSE CRE paper uh, called 313, paper 1 and paper 2. Now, today we are looking at the CRE Form 1 overview, and I welcome you to go with me through the journey, even as we look at what is taught in Form 1 and what we need to learn while in Form 1. My name is Lucy, and just come along with us and follow on. So what we learn in Form 1, these are the subjects, the topics that we learn, and I want us to focus on the subjects, the topics that we learn, so that we can be able to see what is brought in for the exam. Now, the first thing that we look at is the introduction to Christian religious education. We ask ourselves, what is CRE? Why is it taught? And maybe why it is important. Another area that is examined is the Bible. And you're looking at the Bible, you're talking about definitions, divisions of the Bible, the translation of the Bible. We're also looking at the various versions of the Bible that we have, the English version. And because we have been reading and we know that we read English Bibles and they sound very different, it is as a result of a process that is called translation. And then the Bible translated into different languages and even in different dialects has effect, has a different impact, and even maybe even the meaning in different languages. And so we also going to look at the effects of translation even when it comes to the Christian religion. Now, after this, we look at creation. And you're looking at creation when you read through Genesis 1 and 2. Those are the key script or passages that we are supposed to read as students of CRE. And Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 give us the accounts of creation. And we have got two. And then we ask ourselves, why are we having two accounts of creation? And then what are the similarities between the two? Or maybe even what are the differences between the two? We also compare it with the African tradition view of creation. How does the African view creation? Because Africans also have an explanation of how creation came into being. The other thing is that we also look at the fall of man. Immediately after the creation of man in Genesis chapter 3, we find the origin of sin. And the origin of sin is explained all the way from chapter 3 of Genesis up to 11. And as you look at the origin of sin, we're also looking at maybe the effects of sin also. And we're also looking at, is God through with man just because he created him and man has fallen? We look at the salvation plan of God, because God still restores man. He still looks for man. He still meets man. And then we also look at the African. We compare it to the African tradition concept of evil. Now, note that the African tradition does not have the word sin, but we have the word evil. So, as a student, you'll be expected to explain how the Africans view evil and how they explain it. So that's another area that you'll need to have understood and even have read through and probably try to answer some question on that particular area. Now, next, we look at the other thing that we are supposed to learn. It's faith in God's promises. And in this particular section, we deal with the two people, Abraham and Moses. We'll look at their call. Both of them, the explanation of their call or the description of their call is given in the Bible. And also, as a student, you're expected to have understood it or even to know and describe it as it is written in the Bible. Both of them, in a way, they are covenants that have been made. Again, the word covenant, you need to describe what it is or define what the covenant is. Give examples of covenants that we have in the Bible. Give examples of covenants that we have also in the African tradition setup, and also how those covenants in the Bible were performed or done. Then from the two people, Abraham and Moses, we look at the lessons that we can learn from their lives and every aspect of what we learn in each of those characters. The other thing that we are also going to look at in Form 1 is the question of leadership in Israel. Now, after some time, you'll find that God has been the one that has been leading the children of Israel, and you wonder where the children of Israel come in. The children of Israel come in or will be introduced in the scene when we will be looking at Moses, because Moses as an individual is called, and then he's called for a given reason, and he comes out to deliver a nation, a nation that is called Israel. God himself has led them by using judges and prophets. And then somewhere along the way, the children of Israel ask for kings. They want to be ruled by kings. Then the next question we'll be asking ourselves under this particular topic is, why did they ask for kings? And then, was it easy to be given those kings? Because the prophet Samuel had a reason why it was dangerous for them to ask for a king. So what are the dangers of kingship? You need to be able to explain them, to outline them and explain them. Then we can look at the leadership qualities of kings, or of the leaders that are raised among the children of Israel or in the nation of Israel. As you look at leadership in Israel, we will look at also the introduction of kingship. And remember, as we look at the introduction of kingship, you're going to look at the first king of Israel, who is King Saul, followed by King David, and then King Solomon. The three of them are very important because they are the people who begin the lineage of kingship among the children of Israel. The other thing that you need to look at, what are their achievements? What are their failures? And what lessons can we learn from how they ruled the children of Israel or the nation of Israel, and how did they rule, especially in relation to God? Because we know that Israel was a theocratic community, a community that believed in God. How did they rule? What are the lessons that we learn, either from their achievements or from their failures? So it is important for you to have gone through the notes and have read through the notes. If you don't have a textbook, I've given you the areas that you need to read. So you can search for notes even online. In the internet, you will not miss to get some notes somewhere. The next topic that is covered in Form 1 is loyalty to God. Again, we are saying that even as the children of Israel or the nation of Israel, God has constituted a nation, has given them kings, then they were still expected to be loyal to God. And their loyalty to God is demonstrated by how they relate with God. And you find that in this topic of loyalty to God, we are going to introduce a man called Elijah. He's a prophet. And why is he coming into the scene? First of all, he's dealing with the question of idolatry. Idolatry is worship of other gods other than the God of Israel, the God that had brought the Israelites out of Egypt. So we look at idolatry, we look at the foreign gods that they had, or false gods that they encountered when they settled in Canaan, and you look at the corruption that is within the rulership of Israel in their day. And how did Elijah tackle them? Either it's the question of false religion or even the question of corruption. Very, very important. And we also look at the lessons that we can learn from the topic of loyalty to God. And even in the question of the lessons, we are also looking at the application. The last bit that is studied in Form 1 is the African religious heritage. Now, in the African tradition heritage, three things are important for the African communities. We have gods or God, spirits, and ancestors. And in that case, you need to be able to explain what their view was, or what is their concept about God, about spirits, and about ancestors. Well, for the African also, they have cultures. So what are the moral and cultural values that they uphold? The other thing, we look at the rites of passage, and the rites of passage are different from one community to another. And when you talk about the rites of passage or anything to do with the African heritage, you are not looking at the Kenyan Africans. We are looking at Africans as far as they come from the continent of Africa. So you can always give an example of a situation or a, an example from any part of Africa. The examiner will give you marks for it as long as it is true and the moral values that are learned from those rites of passage. Another important group of persons that we study in the African tradition communities are they are religious specialists. Now, Africans are also religious, but even as they are religious, who are leading them? And then give the classification or the classes of the religious specialists that lead the African communities. The last thing that we deal with in the Form 1 work is the continuity and the changes on aspects of traditional African communities. Are there things that we have read in history from the ancient days among the Africans that we still practice today? If they are there, we will be tackling an issue, an aspect of continuity. They are there, they were there, and they are still there. Are there things that were there then that we don't do them anymore? So there's the question of change. Or are there things that were there, we still have them, but we do them in a different way? That's an aspect that you're looking at as changes on the aspects of the traditional African community. So you need to be able to identify them, explain them, and as you explain them, let the examiner know that you at least you know something about what was happening. It's a question that can always arise. Now, Form 1 work is done when you have tackled all those areas that I've given. Now, I want to outline that when you sit for your CRE NEC exams, Form 1 work covers paper 1 of CRE. That is 313 stroke 1. And you have covered question 1, question 2, question 3, and question 6. So that tells me that if you have read through the work of Form 1, you can tackle 4 questions in paper 1 of NEC exam CRE. The examination paper 1 has 6 questions. You'll be expected to answer 5. Each question is 20 marks. Having read through Form 1 work, you have 4 questions. So that tells me that you can get 80 out of 80, depending on your commitment to read through your notes and even do practice as far as doing some revision questions. So question 1, question 2, question 3, and question 6. We will look at specific areas for question 1, specific areas for question 2, specific areas for question 3, and specific areas for question 6 when it comes to we will prepare ourselves for the discussions, because I know we will be having some discussions. What do you need for you to maybe excel or even to do your Form 1 work very well? You will need a Revised Standard Version Bible. When you are reading the passages of scriptures or passages of the Bible verses that you are given, I always encourage students to use the Revised Standard Version, because it is by it that the NEC exam is set. And when it is quoted in Revised Standard Version, then you are able to understand, or you'll be able to grasp what is written. Because sometimes, as we talked about the first topic or the second topic about the Bible, we've said that there are different versions of the Bible. Now, I wish you the best as you read through and as you prepare yourself for the NEC exam, and especially